As Africa's leading defense news portal, DefenceWeb aims to give you the latest updates on African defense, the South African National Defense Force, and the defense industry. In this week's edition, international military expenditure is not affected by COVID-19. The Cabo Delgado insurgency highlights the need for an adequately funded SA National Defense Force. The Southern African Development Community has a responsibility to help Mozambique, and the United Democratic Movement asked the Defense Portfolio Committee to investigate apparent ministerial financial abuse. In SANDF news, 15 SA Infantry Battalion's DRC deployment could last longer, new reserve force insignia is still on the to-do list, and power cuts at SANDF bases and facilities are not an option. In industry news, South African companies commit to grow the aerospace and defense sectors under a new Masterplan, and Denel lost a Seeker 400 in a 2020 crash. In African defense news, international military expenditure not affected by COVID-19. The COVID-19 pandemic did not affect military spending by the world's traditional Big Five, with 5 sub-Saharan African countries also showing increases in their spend on military equipment and material, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. Worldwide, military spending last year was 2.6% more than in 2019, at a time when the global gross domestic product shrank by 4.4%. This international GDP contraction was largely due to the economic impact of COVID-19. The Institute specifically notes military spending as a share of GDP reached a global average of 2.4% last year, up from the previous year's 2.2%, the biggest year-on-year rise in the military burden components of GDP since the global financial and economic crisis of 2009. The world's 5 biggest spenders on military equipment remain the US, China, India, Russia, and the United Kingdom, accounting for 62% of global military expenditure. In sub-Saharan Africa, military spending increased by 3.4% to reach $18.5 billion. Country-wise, the biggest increases in spending were by Chad 31%, Mali 22%, Mauritania 23%, and Nigeria 29%, all in the Sahel region, as well as Uganda 46%. Cabo Delgado insurgency highlights need for adequately funded defense force. The Islamist insurgency in Mozambique's Cabo Delgado province demonstrates the need for states to develop and fund capable defense forces able to respond to security threats, according to Cyril Klaba, chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Defense and Military Veterans. Klaba was speaking at a webinar on the South African defense budget co-presented by the Centre for Military Studies and the Security Institute for Governance and Leadership in Africa at the University of Stellenbosch on the 29th of April. He said the state needs to be able to balance the ability to respond to security threats like in Mozambique with the broader social needs of the state, and that there needs to be urgent, in-depth debate about the role and function of the South African Defence Force and how it fits into broader macroeconomic planning, especially given the broad decline in interest in defence. Klaba pointed out that while defence spending has been shrinking, operational commitments expanded greatly after 2001, both regionally and continentally. Going forward, the defence budget is likely to remain under pressure, resulting in inadequate funding of research and development, routine maintenance, and operations. Klaba said the defence budget requires broader debate outside Parliament, with a key question whether defence and social spending are balanced or if they have been tipped in the wrong direction. The full findings from the webinar can be found on our website. SADC has responsibility to help Mozambique. The Southern African Development Community, SADC, has a responsibility to help a member state whose sovereignty and territorial integrity is under serious threat. According to an extraordinary meeting of ministers in the regional bloc's politics, defense, and security body, a statement posted on the SADC website on the 29th of April attributes this comment to Botswana Minister of International Affairs and Cooperation, Dr. Lemogang Kwape. He is quoted as chair of SADC's organ on politics, defense, and security cooperation, referred to as the Ministerial Committee organ. The statement elaborates on the meeting, called to consider the reports of the technical assessments team deployed to Mozambique following a decision taken by the extraordinary SADC Double Troika Summit in Maputo on the 8th of April. A day previously, another SADC statement had it, an extraordinary summit of the SADC organ on politics, defense, and security was postponed due to unavailability on the presidents of Botswana and South Africa. No new date was given for the extraordinary summit, called Parliament to seek solutions to Islamic insurgency in northern Mozambique. It appears the delay in the extraordinary summit did not affect the extraordinary ministerial committee meeting of SADC's politics, defense, and security body. UDM leader asks Defense Portfolio Committee to investigate apparent ministerial financial abuse. An appeal for Parliament's Joint Standing Committee on Defense to investigate financial abuse allegations appears to be the route chosen by United Democratic Movement leader Bantu Holomisa, rather than opening a case with police. In the second of 2 letters addressed to the committee's joint chairs, Cyril Klaba and Mamagasha Nkabeleng, the former Transkei Defence Force Major General, stresses South Africans tend to take their country's defence far too lightly and for granted. He adds defence is a sensitive issue, with the budget already slashed to the bone, far too close in my opinion. We cannot afford to frivolously waste waste the little resources we have, as these allegations demonstrate, and even worse, do nothing about them. Holomisa maintains this information shows how it might be possible for the so-called top echelon of civilian oversight in the Department of Defense to shamelessly milk at least one of its service providers. He wants one of Parliament's 2 Defense Oversight Committee to investigate, amongst others, Minister Nosiviwe Mapisa-Ngakula's apparent abuse of DoD funds to travel extensively in 2019, costing the taxpayer over 7 million rand, seemingly paid by AB Logistics and Arms Corps Division. The first, according to Holomisa, was for a whopping 4 million rand charter flight from AFB Waterkloof to Cairo, with Mapisa-Ngakula then strangely returning home via King Shaka International Airport. Another allegedly questionable spending of funds allocated to Mapisa-Ngakula's ministry by National Treasury that Holomisa wants a closer look at include a solo 5-day stay at a luxury hotel on New York City Central Park and a further hotel stay, this time for 6 days, in the deluxe King Suite of the Hotel du Collectionnaire Arc de Triomphe in Paris. That, he states, cost just over 200,000 rand, with an Avis transport bill of almost 150,000 rand. When added to the 400,000 New York hotel cost, Mapisa-Ngakula spent over 850,000 rand in 11 days. And in SANDF news, 15 SAI DRC deployments could last longer. The Hoyando-based 15 SA Infantry Battalion is currently flying the South African flag in the UN Force Intervention Brigade in the DR Congo as part of the world body's MONUSCO peacekeeping mission. The unit has been on station in the beleaguered Central African country since December, with indications at present that it could remain in place for longer than the allotted deployment period. This is, according to the Directorate Corporate Communications of the SA National Defence Force, because of possible revisions to rotation dates. The current fluctuating situation in DR Congo, as well as UN guidelines, state resumption of uniform personnel rotations shall be based on extraordinary transitional measures based on rigorous quarantine regimen to mitigate transmission of COVID-19, a statement said. The Force Intervention Brigade is currently the only UN peacekeeping component to have an offensive mandate. Malawi and Tanzania are the other troop contributing countries to the Intervention Brigade. 15 SA Infantry Battalion will be replaced by 21 SA Infantry Battalion when the UN decrees its deployment period over. New Reserve Force insignia still on the to-do list. All is not smooth sailing when it comes to the new names of 52 SA Army Reserve Force units, with old insignia and uniform in some cases declared off limits on parade grounds and no changes yet made to cap/beret badges, shoulder flashes and other identifying insignia. When the name changes were announced in August 2019, it was made clear established uniforms such as the Transvaal Scottish kilts would not be part of the new order of the Landward Forces part-time component. Renamed regiments and units would have a 3-year window to come up with new badging and identifiers, including unit colours. Colours and battle honours would go into regimental and unit museums. Defence Web knows of at least one Reserve Force unit in Johannesburg where soldiers have been instructed not to wear the old ceremonial uniform. This is because it is in conflict with the unit's new name. The window for new insignia and regimental accoutrements closes, according to the Directorate Corporate Communications for the SA National Defence Force, on the 31st of April 2023. For a full list of new unit names, visit our website. Power cuts at SANDF bases and facilities, not an option. The late April power blackout at the Denel military base, the second in 6 months, is not an unusual occurrence at SA National Defence Force bases and facilities, according to Democratic Alliance Shadow Minister of Defence and Military Veterans Cobus Marais. Having no power at military facilities and installations is not on. They should be treated as national strategic facilities and should never be without power, he told Defence Web. Marais was on the contact list of SA National Defence Force Union SANDU National Secretary Pikkie Greef when the lights again went out at the East Gauteng base due to non-payment of a 2.8 million rand electricity bill. Understanding the importance of power at Denel, as well as other sensitive bases where electronic intelligence is the order of the day, Marais went the personal rather than the official route, and it paid dividends. Defence Works Formation Chief Major General Joseph Ledwaba reacted and power was restored without SANDU having to go the legal route. Marais said other bases and facilities experienced similar problems. In industry news, South African companies commit to grow aerospace and defence sectors under new Masterplan. More than a dozen South African aerospace and defence companies have made commitments to move their industries forward into growth as part of the Aerospace and Defence Masterplan. Actions in the very short term to stabilise and ensure the survival of the industry have been approved by the Working Stakeholder Partnership of the state, the private sector and the organised labour, according to the Aerospace and Defence Masterplan document published at the end of 2020. Aircraft aircraft engine maker Adept has committed to additional internships and apprenticeship training, while aircraft parts maker AeroSud will provide letters of intent for investment in the Centurion Aerospace Village CAV, pursue foreign direct investment, explore investment in the maintenance, repair and overhaul of fixed-wing aircraft and helicopters, and establish a training school for artisans in the CAV. AeroSud International will resuscitate discussions with Boeing, Airbus, Embraer, and others in the future over aircraft parts manufacture. The Commercial Aerospace Manufacturing Association of South Africa is also willing to facilitate international investment in the CAV. The Aerospace, Maritime and Defence Industry Association will provide an expert task team to define and provide an optimal border management framework and solution for South Africa, and is willing to provide an online model to the Directorate of Conventional Arms Control to streamline the defence import/export license application process. Arms Corps and Reutech are also willing to assist in this process. Reutech will implement investment in local production in international markets to the value of 750 million rand, resulting in the retention of 600 jobs and a significant increase in the export sales within 3 to 5 years. The company is also willing to lead/support an industry export program for international markets and provide resources towards this. Rheinmetall Denel Munition will fund bursaries for engineers and support high schools with equipment and capacity to strengthen science, technology, engineering and mathematics training and outcomes. The company is currently providing 80 internships per annum with workplace internships and retaining over 20% in permanent positions. It will support small, medium and micro enterprise development through 1% and 2% net profit after tax spending on programs, and continues to support military veterans programs with significant financial resources. SANDF Austria has committed to implementing the largest apprenticeship program in KwaZulu-Natal through its shipyards, and will implement an enterprise development program by allocating 30 to 40% of each project revenue to black-owned SMME support in the supply chain. The South African Civil Aviation Authority is, according to the Masterplan, committed to ensure through its working groups with the relevant state entities and the industry that the final regulatory framework and related systems for drone design, manufacturing, utilization, training, certifications and operations would be concluded by the end of March 2021. The Civil Aviation Authority will convene once a year and endeavor with the civil aviation industry and those affected to feedback on its benchmarking of application and certification systems, as well as its international benchmark performance, and confirm ongoing engagement with the industry. It will also complete its shift to electronic and online application processing by the end of November 2021. Other companies that have pledged commitments in support of the Masterplan are African NDT Centre, Damon Shipyards Cape Town, GW, Hensoldt Optronics, Paramount Group, and the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. The latter will continue to pursue research and development activities, while Denel will secure strategic equity partners in core strategic business units as approved by the board, and this may include missiles, artillery, and UAVs. The Aerospace and Defence Masterplan, completed in 2020, aims to increase local production of selected products by 50% from current baseline levels by the end of 2024, improve export sales by 100% from the current baseline by the end of 2022, increase formal employment from current levels by 50% by the end of 2025, retain advanced skills in the ecosystem, and double the participation of black and/or women participants in the industry from the current baseline by the end of 2022. Denel lost a Seeker 400 in a 2020 crash. A Denel Seeker 400 crashed during a test flight last year, resulting in significant damage being sustained to the airframe. Photos recently emerged on social media of the crash aircraft, which apparently came down in the northern part of the country. The aircraft descended by emergency parachute, indicating engine failure, but sustained a broken horizontal tail and damaged engine bay. The propeller was more or less intact, indicating it was not rotating at the time of impact. The landing gear partially collapsed in the impact, and the nose and sensor turret containing a Hensoldt Optronics LEO gimbal were damaged. Defence Web understands that the aircraft was on a company test flight when the mishap occurred last year. It is believed the aircraft was being tested for a customer. It is not clear who the customer is, but it is likely to be Defence Intelligence, as the Seeker 400 was painted with the South African flag. However, it is possible it may have been for the United Arab Emirates, which also ordered the type. Thanks for listening to the podcast. For the latest, leading and trusted news in defence, aerospace and maritime security, like and subscribe to our social media channels. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and have the latest aerospace, defence and security developments delivered to your inbox. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.